Hello class, and welcome to another video lesson. For numbers 3, 4, and 5, if you've kind of looked on them at your own here before this video, you see that we don't have the slope. We have 2 points. We have that this line passes through a -2, -3, and a +3 and a +2. So let's just think about this for a second. On our last video, on problems number 1 and number 2, we first put it into point slope form. So we had the specific y coordinate and we had the slope. So on this one, if we have 2 points, we don't have the slope. The slope is not given to us. So at this point, we're kind of S-T-U-C-K stuck. However, maybe some of you have thought about this on your own from a previous class or just by critically thinking. You might be thinking to yourself, well, we need to find m. We need to find what the slope is, because once we find the slope, now it's cake to put it into this, and then to transfer it into this, and then to transfer it into this. So that one stinking m, that slope, is what's hanging us up. So let's find what this letter is. And for those of you who have memorized the slope equation, and for those of you who haven't, here's what we need to do to find slope. Slope is found by taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This might be an important thing to write down. I would probably star it and box it and put arrows towards it because that formula is huge. Hopefully you've memorized it by now, but if you haven't, there it is. M equals the difference of the y coordinates divided by the difference in the x coordinates. Some say it's rise over run, which also works. That works better when you actually have it on a grid. When you don't have it on a grid, it's just as easy to take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's label these points. We'll call this one x1, y1. Remember, the 1's always go together and the 2's always go together. So let's call this x2, y2. X's always come first, y's always come second, and then always put the 1's and the 2's together. So we have the difference of the y's. y2 minus y1. So 2 minus a -3 over 3 minus a -2. That is what our slope is. And minus a minus becomes positive. Minus a minus becomes positive. So we have a slope of 5 over 5. 5/5 is the same thing as 1. So our m equals 1. So now, class, this becomes very similar to problems number 1 and number 2. You are given the slope. Well, you're not given the slope. You found the slope is 1. And you are given 2 points. All you need is one of them. It doesn't matter which one you use. You could use this one or you can use this one. It really doesn't matter. You could just pick one. I'm going to pick this one because I already have it labeled as x1, y1. But like I said, you're going to get the right answer whether you use this coordinate or whether you use this coordinate. So just pick one. So we're given one of the points is -2, -3. And our slope is a +1. So now, if you had no problems doing number 1 and number 2 on the earlier video, you're going to have no problems doing 3, 4, or 5 once you've found slope. So we're going to have point slope y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. We're going to have y minus a -3, so y plus 3. That equals our slope times the quantity x minus a -2, so x plus 2. This is one of your answers. I like to box mine up. Please do the same, or you could circle them. Or, actually, never mind, in our notes it asks you to write them down in that blank so that they can easily be seen. Y plus 3 equals 1 times the quantity x plus 2. There's your answer for point slope form. Let's change this sucker into slope intercept form. Y plus 3 equals, let's get rid of the parentheses, distributing the 1. 1 times x is x, 1 times 2 is 2, and then let's subtract this 3 to get it off to the right. So now we're going to have y equals an x minus 1. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals 1x minus 1. There is your answer for slope-intercept form. Your last step, let's change this into standard form. The way that we change it into standard form is we get x and y both on the left side. So to get that x off to the left, I need to subtract the x. So I'm going to have a negative x on the left, adding a y, that equals a negative 1. I got this negative x by subtracting an x here, and then I'm going to have to subtract that x here. So I'm going to have a negative x plus y equals a negative 1. And now, class, hopefully you remember from here, you're not done yet. You're in standard form. X and y are on the same side, which is great. However, your leading coefficient, your term in front of x, cannot be negative. That's one of the rules. So when that's the case, you have to divide everything by a negative 1, or just change the sign on every coefficient. So if we change the sign on all three of these coefficients, we would now have a positive 1x and a negative 1y. That equals a positive 1. X minus a y equals 1. And there are your three answers in point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. Number 4, you guys pause the video and you try it on your own. So when you guys found slope, x1, y1, x2, y2. Once again, we're given 2 points, and in order to do our equations, we need to find the slope. So slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 6 minus 5 over 3 minus a negative 4, which is 3 plus 4. So our slope is a negative 11 over a positive 7. A negative 11 sevenths. So if this is the case, I now have a point and I have a slope. If I have point and slope, I'm going to put it into point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. All right, so y minus the y-coordinate. Y minus my y-coordinate is 5. Y minus 5. I got the 5 by being right here because I'm using this point. Y minus 5. That equals my m, which is a negative 11 sevenths. I found that by doing the slope formula times the quantity x minus the x-coordinate, and the x-coordinate is a negative 4. So x minus a minus 4 turns into x plus 4. First answer. And I found that by using my point-slope form. Changing this into slope-intercept form, it might get a little bit messy. With a slope of a negative 11 sevenths, it's bound to get messy. But that's all right. You're going to distribute this at negative 11 sevenths. So y minus 5, that equals a negative 11 sevenths x minus 44 sevenths. Y minus 5 equals a negative 11 sevenths x minus 44 sevenths. And then I need to add 5 to both sides to get my y all by itself for y equals mx plus b form. Y equals a negative 11 sevenths x, a negative 44 sevenths plus 5. That is going to be a negative 9 sevenths, or minus 9 sevenths. So this is going to be your answer for your slope-intercept form. You have your slope of a negative 11 sevenths, and you have your y-intercept of a negative 9 sevenths. Last step, you got to get this into standard form. So that's going to consist of bringing this x over off onto the left side, which means I would have to add the 11 sevenths x to both sides. Add 11 sevenths x here, and add 11 sevenths x right here. That would eliminate it on this side to bring it off to the left. So I have a positive 11 sevenths x on the left side plus a y. There's one y right here. So one y bringing down right here. But we don't have to write that because it's just understood to be 1y. That equals a negative 9 over 7. All right, you're in standard form. However, not all the rules have been followed, such as the one where all coefficients must be integers. So I can't have fractions and I cannot have decimals. So this 11/7 and this -9/7 are troublesome. We got to get rid of that 7 in the denominator. To get rid of the 7 in the denominator, we just multiply each term by 7. Because when we distribute that 7 to all three terms, 7/7, we can cross cancel there to get 11x. But now we're still going to multiply this 7 by the second term. So 7 times 1y is a positive 7y. And then we have this 7 that can reduce with this 7 just to make a -9 on the right side. So my answer in standard form, 11x plus 7y equals a -9. And our last problem for our notes for today, this one passes through 2, 1 and a -3, -1. This one is kind of interesting because if you find the slope, m equals 1 minus 1 over a -3 minus 2. You end up getting 0 divided by a -5. And what is 0 divided by a -5? The answer is just 0. So if my slope is 0, that means I am dealing with a completely horizontal line. So if that's the case, class, you don't have to write this. Just watch me as I go through this. It's going to be y minus the y coordinate. Let's say I'm going to use this one. Y minus 1. That equals m, which I found to be 0, times the quantity x minus the y coordinate. Well, class, what is 0 multiplied by anything? Just 0, right? So this whole side is eliminated, and we just get a 0 over here. So if y minus 1 equals a 0, what does y equal? Y equals 1. So what I want to tell you, class, this is your answer for point-slope form. This is your answer for slope-intercept form. And this is your answer for standard form. If your slope is 0, y equals that number, whatever the case might be. In this example, it's y equals 1. That's going to be your answer for all three of them. So when slope is 0, or when slope is undefined. Remember, when slope is undefined, that means that the 0 is in the denominator. When the slope is 0, it means 0 is divided by a number. And when the slope is undefined, it means that the number is divided by 0. In either of these two cases, all three answers are the same. It's going to be this y equals 1, y equals 1, and y equals 1. For a vertical line, it might be like x equals 7, x equals 7, x equals 7 for all of them. So, bottom line is, if the slope is 0 or the slope is undefined, all three answers for those three equations are all going to be the same. So as we summarize that one step further, let's just talk about this graph really quick, or this chart rather. It breaks down these horizontal and vertical lines in a easily understood way, in my opinion. Horizontal lines, those are the ones that go from left to right. When they are completely horizontal, it means that they don't have any slope at all. The equation is going to be y equaling a number. It might be y equals 7, or y equals 5, or y equals 12, or y equals any number that you can think of, but it's always going to be a y equals line. The slope, there isn't going to be any slope. The slope is 0. There is no slope. The slope is 0. And then the y-intercept, that y-intercept is the y value of the coordinate. The y value of the coordinate. An example of this might be right here. This point, let's say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say it is 0, 6. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is the y value of the coordinate. The y value of the coordinate is 6, so this one crosses the y-intercept at 6. The slope is 0, and the equation is y equals 6. So now, in the exact opposite way, a vertical line goes completely up and down. So because it goes up and down, our equation is going to be an x equals a number. It might be x equals 3 or x equals 12 or x equals a -5. Whatever the case might be, it's always x equals a number. The slope in this case is undefined. You divide by 0, and one of the mathematical rules is that you cannot divide by 0. It's impossible, so it is undefined. And then the y-intercept, there isn't one unless the line is x equals 0. Y-intercept, there isn't one. Unless it is the line x equals 0. So an example of this would be, here's my xy coordinate grid, a completely vertical line. This one doesn't even cross the y-axis. Here's my y-axis. It doesn't even cross it. Neither does this one. Neither does this one. Neither does this one. They never will, because they go completely vertical, straight up and down. Unless, of course, that line is x equals 0, which is the y-axis. Then obviously it touches it, so it intercepts it. But for the most part, it is not going to have a y-intercept unless it is the line x equals 0. Last thing before you're done with today's notes is that once in a while, I don't know why this happens, but accelerated math is wrong every once in a while. When we answer in standard form, our correct answer, the one that I want you to write on a test, is 2x plus 3y equals 7. This is the answer that I want to see from you on a test. However, stinking Excel math, sometimes they put their answer like this, and I have no idea why. As you can see, all they did was they multiplied by 2, which doesn't make any sense because one of our rules is that the greatest common factor has to be a 1. But as you can see, you can take out a 2 out of all of those terms because we multiplied it by 2 to get to here. So make sure you pay very close attention. If you think that you've done everything right and for some reason one of your A, B, C, D options doesn't work, try to see if there's that relationship where it multiplied each and every one of your coefficients by a certain number. Or in our standard form, we always have our C off to the right side. Sometimes Excel math moves their C onto the left side. So they would subtract 7, and that's how they got this -7 over here. And if you subtract 7 from the right side, what do you have left? Well, all you have left is a 0, and that's how they got the 0 right here. Once again, I don't want to see these two answers on the test. I want to see this answer on the test. But as you're doing your Excel math, if you're very confident that you've done it correctly, odds are you probably did. Just the A, B, C, D options in Excel math don't quite match up to it. So if you need any help, please bring your practice up to me and I could help you out seeing that relationship, or just so that you're aware of it, you might be able to catch it on your own. It's your assignment when you come to class tomorrow. You have 4 objectives, objectives 4, 5, 6, and 7. Best of luck to you on those. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions. I would love to help you out with that.